I will not be here alone for a very long time because I am joined by my co-founder Lisa and two co-founders, that's Nora and Anna. Please join me on stage. So this session is gonna have a few surprise elements, and in order to prepare for this, I have brought along something for each of us, and I'm handing this out now while everyone is getting comfortable here. And before we dive into this wonderful game that we have prepared, we of course want to make sure that the audience knows who we are and knows what is happening here. So I would love to invite the two of you, Nora and Anna, to share a few words about who you are and how you started working together and what are you working on.
Great.
Anna, you want to start?
Yes. We decided that I start this time. We always fight. No. So I'm Anna. I've mainly worked actually my whole career in the talent space. So worked at fast-growing tech organizations on the strategy side as well as on the execution side. So built recruitment strategies and also built large recruitment teams. So I've done that at Zalando, N26, Uber, Molly, and TomTom. I'm currently based in Amsterdam, and Nora and myself know each other from 15 years back at TomTom, where we met. And since the moment we met, sometimes you have this spark with someone, and I hope you have that in your business setting, I'm sure you do, where everything what you do together is better when you do it together. So we quite quickly decided to start a company together. The actual company took 15 years, but Nora will tell you a little bit about that.
This is weird because we're very impatient people. But
that's true. Yeah. So we started invested 2 years ago, but before we go there, maybe you can give a little introduction.
Yes, so I'm Nora. I actually live in Berlin, and I have always worked more on the broader HR side. So in my last journey in Berlin for the last 8 years, I was the VP of People at SoundCloud, and afterwards the Chief People Officer at N26. And Anna and I started Invested a year and a half ago, and basically what we did is like we sat together, had a bottle of wine, and we wrote down everything that we liked and called it a company. And the mystery is, it works. We gave ourselves 1 year. That's like, okay, we have a year to test it out. We're now a year and a half in, and it has exceeded every dream. Both working together, we can talk about that a little bit more, but also from a business perspective. So what are you doing? You're thinking, well, let me tell you. There are two things that we're doing. So one, we help founders scale their business. So mainly later stage companies when they're coming out of an equity growth round. So think about Series C, sometimes Series B. And then we help them think through, okay, how do you set up your org for the next phase? What is the next level of executive team that you need to hire, and help them with complex executive transitions? And that's more like the traditional consultancy by the hour business. And the money that we make there, we reinvest in the startup scene, and we focus on underrepresented founders. And that's mainly more early stage businesses and always on the edge, HR tech, fintech. So if you are a female founder, I'm just going to hack your stage here.
You should.
With an exciting business, do drop us a note because we're always interested in meeting you.
Wonderful, what a pitch. Lisa, do you want to share a few words about the two of us and how we met each other and how long ago that happened?
So this is always a tough topic for Nina and myself because we have different versions of that story. The true story is that we got introduced by a person because I wanted money from Nina. Because back then she used to work at Speed Invest and I was running startup events, and I thought that Speed Invest is a big VC fund. They need to, well, have the budget to actually support startup events, and Nina told me no.
Yes, that's true.
This is how we met, but we still started to like each other, obviously, and stayed in touch. And I think this was already 2 years ago, a bit more than 10 years ago. Sorry, not 2 years, 10 years. And in 2016, we decided that we need to do something about diversity in the tech ecosystem because, surprise, there was even less diversity than it is these days. And this is how Female Founders started. And yeah, back in 2016, we were a rather small organization running a couple of events and mentoring programs. And in 2020, we decided, okay, we can now do what we have been doing and continue our jobs back then at Speed Invest and at the Austrian Angel Investors Association, or we can try to really build something that has a huge impact and that is really becoming a pan-European initiative. Well, obviously, we went for the later one and started building female founders in the pandemic. And now, as probably some of you already know, we're now a team of 20 people. We reach close to 50K women on our channels. And obviously, we run amazing events like this with the support of our team.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, and a session like this should also have a fun element. And a co-founder relationship, and I think we've also heard that already today, is actually, as an entrepreneur, one of the most important relationships that you have, and you have to take care of it. It's not always easy, but it's also a lot of fun, and people usually also grow together and learn a lot from each other. And in order to test that a little, we have prepared a game. And this is the moment where I would want to ask Bernhard back on stage, because he's going to moderate our game. So, each of us has received 2 signs saying her and me, and you can already guess what is happening now, because Bernhard is going to ask us some questions, and each founding team has to decide to whom this is more applicable. Disclaimer, for some questions it might be the case that obviously both people can relate with a yes or a no. But there is always a tendency that some person might be the better fit. And we are going to test how well we know each other. And we hope that this is something where you will have fun and also learn a little bit more about how co-founder relationships work. And with that, Bernhard, I'm giving it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nina. So I will be reading out questions and situations, and each and everyone is asked to quickly flash a card as to whether this is more applicable to either yourself or your co-founder. Okay, let's get started. When shit hits the fan, who is calming down the other person? Good, good. Getting there. We can see we're getting there. We're getting there. This was a test, you could say. Let's head over to our next question or situation. Who is taking care of the important but often sometimes boring tasks such as talking to lawyers, bankers, and accountants? Good. We are aligned here. Great job, everyone. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we know what we are doing, luckily.
Yeah, I hope that our boring lawyers and accountants are not in the room anymore and not watching online.
They have been here.
It's hypothetical situations as well. That's how we can see it. Okay, let's head over to our third question. Who is the visionary? Tough one. Good, 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 good. Yeah, seeing some progress here. Sounds good. Our next question is, who is the more optimistic person? All right. Well aligned. I can see both teams.
Yeah, we can relate.
Up next. Who enjoys working with startups the most? That's a tough one. I can see creative solution here, Panor. Good one. Question or situation number 6. Who spends more time at the office? Let's say physically.
We don't have an office.
Well.
Oh, yeah, well.
We do. Okay.
Well, then it's a very hypothetical situation.
Yeah, yeah. Well.
Yeah, I love our office, I have to say.
Sounds good. Who goes for the tough conversations? Yeah.
I mean, obviously both of us, but someone is dragging the other along, I would say.
Yeah, it's true. Both people have, I mean, they have to be in the conversation to be in the conversation,
Exactly.
but it's one person that is actively looking for it, and that's good.
Yeah, but also I think it depends on the topic and the mood. But I think if at one point you know each other so long, we sometimes compare it little bit as a sister relationship. So you already see micro nudges even when it's virtual, that you're like, oh, she really wants to take this conversation.
Oh my
right?
God,
so
it's
you
so
also
true.
give it to each other.
Yeah, you're already feeling it. I can definitely say that. Yeah.
The other then sugarcoats a bit to kind of calm it down.
You're Dutch, but very direct. So then the other person is like, ooh, let's feel the Dutchness out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Up next, talking good cop, bad cop. Who's the good cop in conversations? That's a tough one as well. Good. Creative, good one.
It links a bit to what we were just saying, right? So it depends a little bit. There are not a lot of good cop, bad cop situations, but there are, of course, situations where you feel, okay, now we really need to be a bit tougher, or a little bit of tough love is necessary. But there is not one or the other that always takes the tough love, right? So it's very organically 50-50, I think.
That's interesting. I think for us, it's at least the feedback that we get is that I'm usually the kind of person who is like always quite tough in conversations and like pushing things, and rather the bad cop person. But if Nina is really becoming the bad cop, everyone knows that, okay, now it's really time to get stuff done, because this explosion is not happening that often.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's very true. And I think we only learned that last year when one of our employees also gave us the feedback, because so we try to be very open and really also encourage our team members to have the courage and the room to give us feedback. And I think this was something that I was not aware of actively before he told us, but it's very accurate, yeah.
And it's mostly not always a black and white thing as well.
That's very true.
No.
Very diplomatic, Bernhard, but I agree.
Try to be. Okay, so next, who is the bigger nerd when it comes to startups and venture capital in Europe? Clear win for both teams. Good one. Now we're leaving the field of actual hard work, and now we're getting a little bit more creative. Who knows more songs by heart?
Thank you. So I think
we're both bad.
This is so funny. Like, we know each other really well, but this we need to test on a karaoke evening without any audience.
I agree. Maybe this is part of the after party.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Singing. Yeah.
No, Noor told me the trick with karaoke, because we both know those songs. You need to be very close to the stage, then they think you were on the stage, but you don't have to do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But we would be watching you now, so knowing that piece of information is gold. Thank you for
I
sharing
hope
that.
someone is putting the gin cold, because I definitely will need that one for
Yeah.
the karaoke.
Yeah, I'll pick up that point. This really calls for a karaoke standoff for tonight's after party. Question number 11. Who is the meme and internet culture expert? Meme and internet culture expert. Yeah, waterline again, both teams, I can see that.
Do you also make gifs about each other and memes? Because I definitely do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a form of appreciation, actually. Yeah. But you really have to know where the person is going with if somebody does that, because it's also borderline offensive.
Having your own memes about each other's co-founders definitely is.
Definitely.
Yeah, we can share the meme collection afterwards. Maybe.
All right, we have 2 more questions left. Who plans the logistics for business trips? We have a good example here. Oh, yeah, good, okay.
I think
Turns
now
out.
I have to be diplomatic, because Lisa has this wonderful eye for details, and that also means when you're going somewhere with her, also on a budget, also on a business trip, there's always this nice thing that should be there. And this means that I'm happy to plan trips, but this also means that it's challenging to plan trips. So I have to include her in my answer, because that's something that I'm very actively thinking about.
Nice. Nora and Anna, how are you dealing with business trips? Is it when you were like looking for, I don't know, some treats, some good restaurants when you were traveling to other cities?
Yes, we definitely do. I think I booked the trip. I also planned the timing. Noor's very optimistic person. I'm less so. I'm always want to be on
at
time.
Schiphol, you're there for 3 hours in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, and you missed the flight the time before. So it helps. Noor's now very nervous that she now needs to come even earlier. And on location, Noor looks at the restaurants.
Okay.
So it's shared.
So it's division of labor working well in your favor.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, let's come to our last situation. Picking up this point, who decides where to go for lunch? Or dinner, respectively. Good. I can see both somehow. Yeah, I can see
I'm
alignment.
taking it, but it's not completely fair, I have to say. Because we meet mostly in Amsterdam, and then you really always host.
And
Pick
you
the
pay.
restaurants. Yeah. From our account.
But I mean, even in Berlin, there's good places to go out for dinner or lunch.
No,
right?
absolutely. But you used to live in Berlin, and for some reason we either meet up on nice locations outside of Berlin and Amsterdam, or it's in Amsterdam a lot of the times. But like if you need nice restaurants and bars in Amsterdam, you're the go-to person.
Yeah. And we decided that I'm the CFO of the two, and she's the CTO. Unfortunately, I basically always fail to even take the company credit card, so it means that the CTO always
Basically,
pays.
the only task of a CFO. We can have a performance conversation about this on stage. Like,
Lisa, Nina, how's it with you?
So when I make decisions where to go for lunch or dinner, I'm always like factoring in what Nina likes. So I think at the end, she's basically making the decision because, forgive me, but she's way more picky than I am.
Yeah, that's true.
Not only when it comes to food, and therefore she's basically the one making the decisions. Like subconsciously, I feel like, is Nina going to like this or not?
That's appreciated.
Yeah.
It's good. Someone
yeah, because
having
food is
nudging.
important.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, and we're also big food sharers. So sometimes also at the office when I have food and Nina doesn't have food, I'm also sharing my food because I think food is like part of being healthy, I guess. So this is why we love food. We really do. So once we visit you in Amsterdam or Berlin, we're going to go for dinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
oh yes, for sure.
Yeah, and you're going to bring the credit card.
I will bring the back up. No worries.
No promise.
Good. That's it with questions from my side, so I'm handing it back to you for explore your co-founder relationship.
Thank you so much, Bernhard. So I hope that already gave you a few insights into co-founder dynamics. And of course, also as the four of us are sitting here, I think what would be particularly interesting is if you could share a pivotal moment in your co-founder relationship, because also after hearing that you have known each other for such a long time, but only then started working in one company a few years later, when did you realize that you were each other's ideal co-founder at that point in time, and what is also the driver behind why you enjoy working together, but for sure also there are moments that are challenging or less nice, to be very honest. If you would want to share a few things about that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, there are a lot of moments. Yeah, but like what I said, for us, it's almost, I don't know if there are people, I have sisters here, I have two of them, but it's really like a sister and friendship relationship, right? So there is the foundational trust, and I think what for me is most special is that we wish more for the other than we do for ourselves. So if the other person is doing something, or even when we have a call with a pitch or whatever, and the other one is doing something, we are always proud of the other person. So we can also call each other afterwards saying, you were so good, oh my God, you were amazing. And having that sincerely, that you're really like the leader of the other person's fan club, really helps. And that also makes it that is the main driver in the relationship, and then all the other stuff you sort out. So I think that is a really important part of it.
Yeah, and maybe to add back to what the question, like when we first started working together was at TomTom, and we kind of find out that that was just after hypergrowth phase. It was a mess, to be honest, in a positive way. That happens after hypergrowth. So we have to solve for a lot of issues within the team, but also strategy-wise. And when we were in a room together, we sort of always came out and we sorted it out. We had a plan, we knew it, and we never really realized who did what, who came up with what. And I think that's the same the case, right? So if we're thinking about stuff, we're talking, and then suddenly it becomes bigger and also more concrete. I think Noor makes it bigger, I might make it more concrete in essence, if you have to share it. And then it's, it just starts being something. And I think what makes us be here today is that we're very open that things change. So we are constantly learning, and we are very much in an open space where we can change our opinions, we can change ourselves. We start something and then we discuss, do we still like it? We're very active in doing self-reflection together, right? Like, where are we on the path? What do we want to do next year, for example, at the end of the year? What did we have achieved? What was different? And so then we basically grew so fast in 1.5 years, but we also made a lot of changes, which for us felt very natural because we spoke about it a lot, right? So I think that are some of the things that we enjoy. And I think the other piece is we were very clear when we started the company that we had clear principles on what we wanted to do. And we created the 4 F's, which meant founder, financial, fun, which is very important, and future. And we said, whatever we do, it needs to tick 3 out of those 4, right? So, or an exciting founder to work with, or something that is future-proof, right? Will bring us to the next level, or it needs to be financial attractive. I mean, we still consult to reinvest in the starting scene. So somewhere there needs to come money in to reinvest. And for us, it's most important, I think, the fun piece. I think, and that's also a bit corny, and like everyone says that. But I think we laugh all the time. Also, like
a little bit too loud sometimes, according to restaurant owners. But
yeah, and like if we feel like, oh, this also the people we work with, we cannot have fun with, we just don't do it. So, and that's we understand it's a luxurious position, but it was a very clear choice. We don't optimize based on if we don't enjoy it, and that's also what we say together daily, right? So we get someone talks to us, would you want to help us? And I'm like, I don't think it's fun. And then it's like, we just should not do it, Noor says. Like, that's what we, so I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And a little bit on the feedback, sorry, then we'll close it off, is what we don't do, because that we see, we of course talk also to other companies, and then they're like, that founders have very organized, and it's good if you need to build it in your relationship to set up very organized feedback loop and retrospectives. I think we don't need that formal setup. We do it organically in conversations, and that also helps. Because then you don't need to constantly let's sit down. What did you do last month? That annoyed me a little bit. Let's talk it through, right? Like, it's beyond that. It's constantly like when she's doing an assignment that we thought would be really great and I see that she's losing energy on it, I already see that, right? So then you very organically can say, should we do this type of assignments again? Maybe not next time. Mm-hmm. So it's so wheeled into our day-to-day that we don't need the formal let's sit down moments. We do check in formal moments in time to say, did we reflect enough? And looking back, like what changes did we make and what choices did we make differently, and does it still fit?
Okay. So as the two of you are also friends, as we hear and see, how do you differentiate between this? Obviously, it's a professional working relationship, and it is connected to financials, and it is connected also to you being professionals, versus obviously you're also friends. There are things you just want to share, but it's clearly on a friend level. So this is something that I can definitely say is sometimes not so easy, because, I mean, things are happening all at the same time. How do you deal with that? And have you ever been in a situation when it was then like a little bit too much of a gray area, also in terms of getting stuff done?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Let's start that both our fathers are lawyers. I think that's maybe helps where we come from. So for us, it was very clear, everything we do, like we start a business together, the number one thing we said to each other, our friendship is more important than our business. Yeah. So that's really important. So we need to make sure that everything we are doing, we're actually gonna make sure we have like a lawyer look at it. We create great contracts that help us think through the different circumstances and context that can occur. So I think that a good lawyer will help you do that. So what happens if someone else wants to do something else, right? Well, you do investments together that are basically pay out over 10 years. What are you doing if something very sad happens, right? So somebody has a disease or somebody's ill, like how are you dealing with the financials? It was actually a lot of work, and we went through this whole cycle, and it actually, I think, was an amazing foundation. I would always say to everyone, do that, not for that contract, I think that saves drama at the end, but more understanding that you come from the same values and the same, I think, peace of mind on what you're trying to achieve. And I think, interesting enough, we also so that's we done. It was out of the way. It was sort of like at one stage it's also relief. I mean, then you get it. You're like, okay. But I think what we also said is we designed why do we want to do this together, and we had a very clear purpose that we wanted to invest in diverse teams. But we also do that. We've worked both extremely hard. We want to have flexibility, so we still want to work hard, but we want to have flexibility on how and when we do that, right? That's one of the core principles that we're also together. We can decide, we're the two of us, we always say we're set up to not be scalable, we help others to be scalable. And so we thought of that, and we had thought of a system, maybe you can talk a little bit about it, with how we would actually make that work so we were allowed time off.
Yeah, so in the beginning, we thought, okay, we want to have a lot of freedom, and we both like traveling and going abroad. So both of us, our dream was, okay, we have this business, and then like, oh, now actually, I want to go to South Africa for a month and not work, but do something else. Write a book, again, that I don't finish, right? Like those type of dreams. And we should have that freedom. So we said, okay, we split everything 50-50, no matter how much hours, because like this year you will take 2 months, next year I will take 2 months, it's fine. And we thought that's the ultimate freedom, because we know that the other is generous to the other person anyway. It didn't work at all, because we wanted to be so generous to the other that we pushed ourselves to work more hours so that the other one could take the month off, but that was not really our definition of freedom. Yeah. So we really had to reset and say, oh, actually, we're going to do a final calculation by the end of the year. If you worked more, you get more money. And weirdly enough, that actually gave us more freedom, because now you could be like, okay, this is how I want to work or spend my time right now, and it doesn't impact the other person. So we also had to learn along the way that even if your purpose and your mission is really clear, which for us was ultimate freedom, the way how to get there comes with a lot of iterations, and that you need to figure out together.
I have to make it brief, I guess, because I see the timer. Okay. And Nina is the one who's always taking care of the fact that we are on time, yes, which is something that I'm very bad at, but I'm going to make it short and brief. No comment on this, because I think you already mentioned like such great things, but the reason why we invited the two of them and why we thought that it would be fun to be here on stage with you is because when we had this first call, and this one it was just you, we felt like those people, they just like each other and they have fun in what they're doing, and they're doing such a great job and they are such an inspiration. So this is why it's been a true pleasure. And it's a big pleasure to have you. No, because honestly, I think authenticity in business and being a human being and being friends is something that everyone should experience at one point. And I think all of us, also the two of us, we're incredibly fortunate to experience this. And I think you're such great role models, and very, very happy that you're here.
But the one tip I can give to people, like, find yourself a co-founder who you can be yourself with and who also doesn't take itself too serious, right? Because that makes it a little bit lighter, and you will have to go to storms together. And of course it's easy when you have a deep, long-lasting friendship. You have a little bit more of stress resilience. But like, make sure that you can laugh really loud together. It doesn't need to be as loud as we are, but like, make it light and make sure that you can go through those loops together.
How
it's super
loud
important.
Are you?
Oh, test Anna tonight. If I start karaoke, they will hear her in Amsterdam. Like, open the windows.
Competition is up. We're gonna test this tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.